Yes, hello, or rather, good afternoon to everyone who has decided to tune in to today's feature. And what a lovely Friday it is with the sunshine and the heat, although I know this weather does not necessarily please everybody. It might be a little bit too hot to enjoy the weather, but the cricket summer is well and truly underway. And today it is red for Ruth Day at Lord's on the second day of the third Rothesay Test between England and India. Anyway, I'm delighted to welcome you along to episode 7 of 4 1/4 Sports, presented by me, Gregory Richardson, here on Puritans Radio. And this afternoon, I have something very, very special in store for you, because over the course of the next half an hour or so, I take you back to the third day's play of the Second Rothesay Test between England and India, which took place at Edgbaston between the 2nd and 6th July. Amazingly, that was already a week ago, and the third test is now already into its second day, but I am really looking forward to giving you an atmospheric insight into what you might experience when going to Birmingham for a day at the test in the future. Without further ado then, on Friday, 4th July, I went to the iconic ground for the first ever time, and I chose to go on day 3 because that is when a test match tends to progress and swing towards one team or the other, or in other words, liven up a little. After India had batted most of the first 2 days, England fans, like myself, travelled to Birmingham on Friday morning knowing that England needed to bat out the day, otherwise the hosts would have been staring down the barrel of a defeat. Anyway, because it was my first time going to Edgbaston to watch any format of cricket, I woke up at 4:45 in the morning, had a big breakfast, and I got to Banbury train station in plenty of time in order to catch the 6:58 heading towards Manchester Piccadilly. The journey on the train was 51 minutes long, with stops at Leamington Spa, Coventry and Birmingham International, followed of course by Birmingham New Street, and I arrived there on time. Getting off the train, I made sure to mind the gap, of course, and I asked the security guard on the platform which way I needed to go to exit the station, because I could tell it was a huge place and I had never been there before. Then I proceeded to go up the escalator and turn right, and I came across the ticket office after scanning my ticket to get through the barriers, and staff kindly told me that I could walk straight out of the station, cross the road and get on a bus heading towards Edgbaston. Initially, I had planned to get on the shuttle bus, which stops right outside the TK Maxx, but I was really early and they did not start running until 9 o'clock, and I wanted to make sure to get to the ground for opening time to avoid massive crowds where possible. Therefore, when the first bus that came along pulled in to let passengers on and off, I kindly asked the driver if he was going to Edgbaston. He said no, but kindly advised me to wait for either the number 63 or the number 61. I looked at the timings on the board, and the 63 was due to arrive first in just 5 minutes' time. Eventually then, I got on the bus travelling towards Franklin, and I went 6 stops on the bus before the driver advised me to get off at Priory Road. When I stepped off the bus, again minding the gap, of course, I headed down a narrow road and turned right as I had been advised to do so by the bus driver. And suddenly, I was walking alongside a main road where I could see brown signs for Edgbaston, and I even walked past one of the E-entrances on the left-hand side. I followed the stadium round by turning left at a big junction, and I found the main reception because I was told that I would be able to get my bearings more easily if I walked through the lovely looking big blue area, which is the pavilion end. Again, because I was there early, I got chatting to a lovely gentleman who was wearing a very smart suit and who works at Edgbaston, and we talked a little bit about the game situation and what England needed to do in order to try and salvage the situation. We also discussed England's epic chase from 3 years ago at this very ground against the same opposition, but that a similar outcome this time around seemed highly unlikely. Anyway, when the ground was about to open, I decided to head to the ticket office to ask if my ticket could be printed so that I could have a souvenir for the day, and they did just that for me, and I was really, really chuffed. They had the words "sold out" in bold caps written above the office, but they had spare tickets for days 4 and 5. But because it looked as though England might struggle to get back into the contest, I decided to stick to my unique visit on the 3rd day. Eventually, after a little bit of printing trouble, I managed to rejoin the queue, had my ticket scanned, and then proceeded to the standard security check. For once, a pre-bought bottle of water for hydration purposes was allowed through the gates. Thank you, Edgbaston. Some common sense at a UK venue at last, and an acknowledgement that people need to carry water around with them on a day that is forecast to be sunny and warm. Once I was through into the main reception, I bought myself a programme for the Edgbaston Test, which had a big close-up photo of Ben Duckett sweeping en route to his 149 at Headingley on the front cover. I also chatted a bit about cricket with one of the volunteers wearing a lime green shirt, and after talking about recent thrills and spills from Edgbaston and Trent Bridge tests, she wished me an enjoyable day. Then I walked around to the famous holly stand where my seat was, and I discovered that I had an excellent view and that I would be slightly protected from the sun, although that was not necessarily a great thing to begin with, as it was actually quite a cool start to begin with, but in the sunshine it was much, much warmer. Anyway, with my red paper band now wrapped firmly around my wrist, as they had to be, I decided to walk back to the main reception and look for some food and drink. When close to the main reception, I bumped into Nasser Hussain, who works for Sky, and he only replied to me by saying "morning" in a bit of a sharp tone and in that voice as well, before strolling off, as I'm sure that he was in a hurry to get into the skybox to prepare for the day ahead. In that moment, I decided to head outside into the communal area, and I was spoilt for choice with different food and drink stalls. Eventually, I found a lovely farm-based stall that did sausage baps, and I had one of those accompanied by an ale shandy that I purchased from a different stall. I continued walking along the line of stalls a little bit, and I can honestly say that you are spoilt for choice, especially for alcoholic drinks, which surprised me at only 9:20. Then I discovered a large seating area which also had a big screen which was airing Sky's cricket coverage from day 2, which meant I was able to watch the best bits from Shubman Gill's incredible individual performance. Having finished my sausage bap, I fancied a box of donuts, and I had them with chocolate sauce. Then I found a place to sit down, and I began talking to someone from the north who had been to Headingley a few weeks ago and had now come down to Edgbaston for the first time ever, like myself. We got talking a little bit about the British and Irish Lions tour and all things cricket, as I like to say, before the clock had somehow raced to 10:40. The sun was now fully out, and it was time to somehow force my way through the crowds to get back to my seat on time, although later in the day I realised that I had gone the long way round. Such was my unfamiliarity with the venue. Oh well, you live and learn, I guess, don't you? Anyway, I got to my seat, which was in block 24 of the Holly stand, just in time to see the Indian team in their huddle on the boundary edge, just in front of the big blue, pristine-looking pavilion building to my left. After a few seconds, the traditional cricket hymn called Jerusalem began being blasted out on the PA system as Joe Root and Harry Brook began making their way out to the middle for the start of the day's play. All of a sudden, I was about to see my first ball of Test cricket live as the umpires were in their respective positions, and Akashdeep was at the top of his mark, with Joe Root tapping his bat in anticipation. With the score on 77 for 3, Akashdeep ran in and bowled the first ball of the day from the pavilion end, and despite Joe Root not scoring off it, a single was added to England's total because it was a no ball. The second ball of the day was also a no ball, and as the over drew to a close, Joe Root clipped the ball off his pads to mid-wicket for 4, to the famous cries of Root. The second over of the day was very eventful. Harry Brook took a single to move the score on to 84 for 3 before disaster struck. Not once, but twice. Firstly, Joe Root tickled a straight ball from Mohammad Siraj fine, and Rishabh Pant held onto it when diving to his left behind the stumps. Suddenly, Root, the man England needed the most, was out for just 22, and you could have heard a penny drop as he trudged his way off. Then, Stokes received a well-directed bouncer which he gloved behind, and India were cock-a-hoop, and the Indian fans scattered around the Holly stand were absolutely delighted, so much so that their drummers in the corner by the big screen began beating them really hard as if there was no tomorrow. It was loud, very loud, and as for the Barmy Army, they were shell-shocked, and many people began getting up to get the pints in at that point, meaning that they missed Jamie Smith's exquisite cover drive to get off the mark first ball. The dreaded hat-trick had been avoided, and England, still 499 runs in the arrears, needed a miracle. A miracle of sorts is what happened. As the sun gradually began to cover the entirety of the playing surface, Jamie Smith took the attack to India as he hit a few sixes off Jadeja and many other boundaries on his way to an incredible 80-ball 100 in just under 1 hour and 50 minutes. In reaching his century, Smith scored the third fastest Test 100 by an Englishman, and with Harry Brook also scoring freely, they somehow reached 249 for 5 at lunch. Scoring 172 runs in a session when the team were in dire straits at 84 for 5 is very, very impressive. Welcome to Bazball, I told myself. The lunch interval whizzed by, and before I knew it, the players were coming back out with Harry Brook just 9 singles away from a century of his own, and with Jamie Smith by his side, unbeaten on 102. One by one, Brook knocked off the runs, and he made a single when on 99 to reach his 9th Test 100 off 137 balls. It was a measured innings, and he played exceptionally well given the circumstances. The Holly stand erupted in delight, and the song of the day became Harry Brook's name to the tune of modern pop song Daddy Cool. I can still hear it now in my head. Harry Brook, Harry Brook, Harry Brook. Harry Brook. Thereafter, Even though the runs dried up a little, Smith had gone past 150 by tee and Harry Brook was just shy of that landmark himself, but soon after the 4 o'clock restart, both continued piling on the runs before reaching the 300-run partnership, England's second highest sixth wicket stand and their highest ever sixth wicket partnership against India, according to the Saturday Times. However, with the score on 387 and with the visitors having taken the new ball, Akashdeep got a delivery to nip back off the seam, jag back in and knock over Harry Brooks off stump. I happened to be going around with the many people dressed up in the Holly stand, shouting "Barmy Army" at that point, as the crowd were really happy and in full voice after the work that the two batsmen were putting in to steady the ship. But that wicket brought 4 more with only 20 more runs added to the score, leaving Jamie Smith stranded on 184 not out, and the Holly stand was stunned once again. The pig and his butchers did continue running around a little, but the Indian voices grew louder and louder as the Indian openers Rahul and Jaiswal scored boundaries with relative ease en route to a 50-run partnership, although Josh Tongue did manage to dislodge Jaiswal with an LBW. This was the most dramatic moment of the day because the DRS timer began as soon as the umpire raised the finger. 15, 14, 13. Jaiswal saw the clock turn to 0 and then signalled for the review. The reaction from the crowd was one of dismay, as you can hear, and Stokes was rightly fuming that the review had been allowed. It proved to be a waste of time though, as Jaiswal was on his way once the ball tracking revealed the umpire's suspicions in real time. The ICC really need to look at why that review was allowed, however, because on another day the outcome could have been different. And with question marks regarding over rates, the timer is there for a reason, and fans missed out on an extra over at the end of the day because of those 3 minutes that were wasted. If I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 overs had not been bowled by the close. My ticket cost me £112, and that stupid waste of time cost an extra over in which England could have taken another wicket. Anyway, India lost yet another review in this series, and Shubman Gill will definitely need to get to grips with when and how to use reviews in team meetings ahead of and during this Lord's Test, because himself and his players are starting to look a little bit silly as far as their use of the DRS is concerned. Anyway, Karan Nair and KL Rahul pummeled a few more boundaries to enable the visitors to reach the close on 64 for 1, thus stretching their lead to 244 runs before they saw out the last over as the rain began falling steadily as I began heading out of the ground. Play on Friday finished just after the scheduled time of 6:30 p.m, and despite the few overs not bowled, the weather had been very kind to me as I'd seen a full day's play from 11 o'clock right up until the end of the extra half an hour without any interruptions due to bad weather or issues with the light. India were definitely in the driving seat, which was a little bit disappointing. But having said that, when I booked to attend on day 3, my thinking behind that decision was that it was the moving day of a test and that there was a chance that I would be able to see both teams batting and bowling, and that is what I witnessed. And therefore I was very content with how the day had gone, especially as interesting stats were revealed thereafter, especially regarding that epic partnership between Harry Brook and Jamie Smith, as I alluded to a moment ago. There are a lot of people going left, right and centre as the players made their way off the field. I walked back around to the main reception and a very kind gentleman who works for Edgbaston showed me how to enter the queue for the shuttle bus. In typical British fashion, I was standing in the rain with no coat or umbrella because the weather forecast indicated glorious sunshine all day. It was only drizzle, and the queue, although long, was not difficult to negotiate. Within 30 minutes, and for only a £5, I was on the bus heading back to Birmingham New Street train station, and we had dropped off 100 yards or so from the station amongst the traffic, and I was early enough to get the slightly delayed 20:03 train, leaving at 20:13. Whilst I did have to pay in excess of £25 extra on top of my prepaid ticket to travel back an hour earlier, it was worth it because even though it had been a thoroughly enjoyable day, it had been a long day, so it was time to go home, have a bite to eat, and then hit the pillow, which I did. What a fun day. What an incredible adventure it really was. I'm telling you, it really, really was. And on that note, I would certainly recommend going to Edgbaston, and it is very easy to get there by use of public transport. I was asked to complete a survey by organisers who sent me an email, but I have been so busy with both of my weekly sports features for Puritans Radio that I have not had time to complete it. However, I would say that all staff and volunteers were very helpful, and staff at Birmingham New Street were aware that the test match was going on, and they were all kind and helpful as well. The food at Edgbaston was good, if not slightly overpriced, as usual, including the fish and chips, which I had at the tea interval. But food is important, and I do prefer to buy some portions of food than take a picnic in a mini backpack, especially on a hot day. I was very grateful for the water fountains too, which were dotted around the ground, although, if anything, they could have been signposted better from my point of view. All in all, I had a fantastic day. I witnessed some very entertaining cricket, and it was amazing to witness DRS drama live for the first time. The crowd shouting cheerio, 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 and waving Jaiswal off was probably my favourite moment of the day, mainly because the game situation meant England really needed to snare a wicket. Another one before the close would have been nice, but all in all, 394 for 8 in 6.5 hours is what I would call an action-packed day. Also, I definitely witnessed the most even day of the Test match without a shadow of a doubt, and for that I am truly grateful. That then, ladies and gentlemen, brings to an end today's special episode of 4 1/4 Sports from Edgbaston. I hope that you enjoyed today's unique insight into a day out at the cricket in Birmingham, and that you might consider going to the iconic venue in the future, especially after my fantastic experience. Next week, I'll be back with the standard sports roundup featuring Banbury's cricket teams, the Puritans, and, of course, updates on how the British and Irish Lions are doing down under, as well as the outcome of the third Rothesay Test, which is currently underway at Lord's, and that started yesterday. Who then will have the upper hand heading to Old Trafford? Join me, Gregory Richardson, same time, same place next Friday to find out. I will see you then, but for now, take care and have a fantastic weekend. Here is Ian Fleming for the rest of today's 007 Magazine Show Live. Bye bye everyone.